This situation keeps getting crazier as we are now just hours away from game one of the World Series and just a little bit away from the rosters officially being announced. We have some wild updates that have come out late last night into this morning surrounding not only Bichette's availability in the World Series, but some more updates surrounding the wild reporting about what position he's going to play. We're going to break down these brand new updates, discuss what they mean going forward, as well as a few other interesting things, including some comments from John Schneider about how he's going to use some of his players as it pertains to the lineup ahead of tonight's game. Ton to go over, as well as a few interesting stats you're going to want to stay tuned for ahead of the first World Series in over 30 years, folks. It's been a while, 1993. But before we get into it all, you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel. It's the place to be for daily Jays content. Your guys' support has been unbelievable, and today's the day, folks. The World Series is upon us. It is here, and I'm excited for it. But first, there has to be some moves made. Now, of course, this is super early morning. I assume when you guys are watching this, or if it's later in the day, of course, welcome. But gonna have another video as soon as the rosters drop this morning, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, had to go over a bunch of updates that have dropped in the interim, and let's start with some of the big Bichette news. We also have the starters being revealed for tonight's game and a ton of different things. So shout out to Danielle Franceschi for this video here late last night into the early evening. Here's Bichette's, early evening into late last night. Here's Bichette's workout and talking about him running the bases following the Blue Jays team workout. John Schneider stayed out with the other coaches and medical personnel to watch. Now, feel free to go check out that tweet. I'll leave it in the description if I remember. And it's specifically about Bichette running the bases. He looks fine, right? He's not running with a lot of intensity. He's not running super, super hard, but he looks really good, right? And he looks really good compared to what he did. And we can think back to ahead of the ALCS when that video leaked about Bichette running the bases and it was awful. He's running them a lot better now. He's really starting to get himself up. Now, Bichette also spoke out on some of his, I guess, antics heading into and what he's been practicing heading into the World Series game tonight. And he said he will work at second base again yesterday, has 262 innings and 30 minor league games there, most recently once at AAA over 5 years ago, really 6 years ago now. And he said, I'm, quote, willing to do whatever it takes to help this team win. And whatever role it is, it doesn't matter. He said, I'll be ready for whatever that is. So, following my video yesterday afternoon, there was media day for the World Series and all these different things. Folks, it seems like, I mean, it's all but confirmed now that Bichette's going to make the roster. The only thing not confirmed is in what capacity he'll be able to play, whether that be just DH, whether that be pinch hitting, whether that be, in this case, at second base. It's going to be interesting. But also, we know how much John Schneider likes to use guys like Miles Straw in that defensive alignment in the outfield once the Jays take the lead. So by having Springer in the outfield, you can't really do that because you take away his bat. There's a lot of question marks heading into this roster, and that's why there's going to be surprising moves either way, right? Whether that be Joey Loperfido taken out, that's not really the surprising thing, but there could be some interesting deployments with how these players go. And also, speaking of interesting deployments, we also saw Bichette getting some reps at first base, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, first base, and this could be very interesting in its own right here because if they, again, I don't think there's any world that, Bo plays for, starts the game at first base. You have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. there. But if they want to try to get really creative later in the game, maybe throw Vladdy at third. No way that happens. But like, there's different avenues here. There's a reason that he's getting reps at first. He has to be ready to do whatever it takes to be available because he's not going to play shortstop. I think at this point, it seems like they want to go with Andres Jimenez at short, which makes the most sense, right? At this point, either DH him, play him at second, and some people are talking about third. I don't think that's going to happen either. Sorry. You can't, either way, you can't have him at the hot corner for a World Series game. But it's going to be interesting. And I think second base makes the most sense. But if he's not fully ready to go, then maybe it makes a little bit less sense. And Schneider said that Bo could play any of second base, shortstop, and DH, but they're still tracking his comfortability. So he was just getting reps at first base to kind of, feel things out. But again, Schneider did add that it's a question of both how Bo will be used and if he'll be on the roster at all. Though Bo said, I'll be ready a few days ago. It's no guarantee. So despite all these questions, all of these assumptions, they're keeping the door open for him for, I guess, tomorrow if he has a major setback for him not to be on the roster. Now, I can't imagine, given all these questions, all this footage, that he wouldn't play. And I think he is going to be starting tonight's game in some capacity, which we'll dive into in a minute here. But let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are. Do you want to see him on the team if he can only pinch hit? Like, if he gets left off of the roster, that would be devastating at this point, right? Like, you need every bit of offensive firepower you can. You're going up against the best lefty, or one of the best lefties in the game, rather, in Blake Snell, who has nasty wipeout stuff. He's an absolute, he's an absolute beast. I just hit my desk. And he's an animal, right? He's fantastic. You need everybody all hands on deck. And of course, having guys like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but Bichette being healthy, IKF being willing to, lay a bunt down and get the job done is going to be crucial, as crazy as that sounds, me advocating for the bunt. But speaking of craziness, Kevin Gausman, he spoke out recently and revealed some interesting truths behind his side sessions. You can see this here, but not a side session, but behind his appearance in Game 7, rather. He's throwing a side session yesterday, which would appear to set him up to start Game 2 on Saturday. So Trey Savage is locked in as the Game 1 starter, and Kevin Gausman knew that he went into Game 7 knowing that if he got in, then maybe Game 1 would be kind of a stretch, and he's not pitching Game 1. It has been confirmed. It is Trey Savage versus, of course, Blake Snell, which is a crazy meteoric rise for a guy like, any prospect for a guy like Trey Savage. He said, that was hard for me to swallow, to be honest, but I would hate to go out there not knowing exactly what I'm going to get out of myself. That played a big part in the last couple of days. So at the end of the day, folks, Kevin Gausman did his job. He made this team, helped this team rather make the World Series, and now he's set up for Game 2, which is at home. And Game 1's not some crazy must-win game anyway. And obviously, you're going up against the Dodgers, who are fantastic, but I have full faith in Kevin Gausman starting Game 2, Shane Bieber starting Game 3 on the road, and then you go on from there. I do think they're going to utilize Chris Bassett in more of a bullpen role here. He had some great plus stuff and graded out really well. And John Schneider spoke out about the Dodgers in the matchup, and he said the one thing we cannot do is look over there and say that is Goliath. That is a beatable baseball team that has its flaws and also its really, really good strengths. Now, something I want to point out here, I think Ernest meant it as well. Goliath lost, right? He didn't win the battle. So I guess this is a weird dynamic here. I get what he's saying. Goliath makes it seem like some undefeatable thing, even though he was beaten. Getting a little bit specific here, but he's right. Like, the Dodgers are a beatable baseball team. They won one game less in the regular season than the Jays did. Obviously, they weren't healthy. Their bullpen is not very good right now. They're dealing with an injury as well. And they also are, of course, with their starting rotation, it's as healthy as it's ever been. The Dodgers team is as healthy as it's ever been. And you can't go and look at the starting rotation and their regular season stats for the Los Angeles Dodgers this year and say, hey, the Jays starting rotation's better or anything like that. It's not. It simply isn't. They're the best rotation in baseball, best rotation we've seen in decades probably, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. And again, Savage starting Game 1 of the World Series, and Schneider confirming that it'll be somewhere, right? And if you can play shortstop, you can play anywhere. And he did hit against live pitching yesterday. Taking ground balls, running, hitting all over the field. A few more boxes to check. Hopefully he checked those off. One final thing before I wrap up here. This was an interesting from views of the 6. Jays views, an interesting lineup, which kind of hedges your bet on Bichette being really good. So it's Springer, Schneider, Guerrero, Kirk, Bichette, Varsho, Clement, IKF, Jimenez. So this is interesting because it gives you, obviously, IKF against a lefty who has been really good against the righties. IKF doesn't actually hit lefties great, but you can see here, don't love Kirk cleanup, but that would allow Bichette, to get out of the cleanup spot immediately and throwing him into the fire, and the cleanup might be a little much. Very intrigued. We shall see. Some interesting points here is people are talking about whether you're going to cut Yariel or cut Loperfido. I'm putting Yariel on the the chopping block, and I'm putting Loperfido on it, being the roster. You might need to do some pinch running for Bo. Very interesting question. I think there is a world here where they cut Yariel because they have so many right-handed bullpen arms. And if Bassett emerges as a bullpen piece, which he is, he's going to be on the roster with Scherzer. This will be a better move. Folks, you guys have been absolute beats to support. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. Cheers.